There is a plant in your home that grows toward darkness. Not toward the window, not toward the light, toward the darkest corner of the room, toward the shadow behind the door, toward the space where nothing else survives. Every other living thing bends toward the sun. This one does not. It has a name for what it does. Scientists call it scototropism, growth toward darkness. It is not malfunction. It is not disease. It is ancient, deliberate design. The world named it accordingly. Devil's ivy, devil's vine. A plant so resistant to death that people who kept it in sealed rooms, in lightless corridors, in the basements of abandoned buildings, found it still green when they returned. The name was not mythology. It was field observation. Something this persistent, this unresponsive to the conditions that kill everything else, required a name from another world entirely. This is Ancient Food Files. We open the records that other archives have let close. If you have not yet subscribed, do so now, not for us, but because what we preserve here does not remain available by accident. The vine comes from Mo Aurea, a small volcanic island in the Society Islands of French Polynesia, rising from the South Pacific roughly 17 kilometers northwest of Tahiti. It is an island of steep ridges and dense forest canopy, where light reaches the forest floor only in fragments, where the ground is layered in shadow for most of the day. Polynesian communities knew this plant long before it had a Latin name. They called it, among other things, hunter's robe, a name that described the way it covered trees, the way it moved across the jungle floor like something draped deliberately over the landscape. They did not fear it, they understood it. Its aerial roots gripped stone and bark with equal indifference. Its leaves, heart-shaped and glossy, a deep, saturated green flecked with gold, cascaded down whatever surface it had chosen. It grew as high as 12 meters in the wild canopy. It grew also in the dark beneath it. Both were true simultaneously. The biology is precise. Epipremnum aureum carries, in every part of its tissue, crystals of calcium oxalate, microscopic shards, shaped like glass, embedded in the flesh of its leaves, its stems, its roots. Contact with the raw plant causes irritation. Ingestion causes swelling, burning, in severe cases the closing of the airway. The plant is not passively toxic. It is architecturally armed. And yet it endures environments that would destroy any other defended thing. No light, minimal water, temperatures that should induce dormancy. It continues. The calcium oxalate does not weaken in the dark. Neither does the vine. What it does in darkness is not survival. It is strategy. Scototropism, first documented formally in related Araceae species and observed in Epipremnum's broader genus, directs the vine toward the darkest point on the horizon. Because in a dense tropical forest, the darkest point is a tree. The darkness is not absence. It is a signal. The vine reads shadow the way other plants read sun, and it climbs toward what it finds there. It arrived in European botanical records in 1880, collected from juvenile specimens, misidentified, and named Pothos aureus by Belgian botanist Jean-Jules Linden and French botanist Edward-François André. The name was wrong from the beginning. By 1908 it was transferred to Syndapsis, still wrong. By 1963, to Rhiphidophora, still wrong. Finally, in 1964, after a flowering specimen was located, first confirmed in Puerto Rico, then at the Fairchild Tropical Garden in Miami, botanist George Bunting established the correct classification. Epipremnum aureum. 4 names across 84 years. The plant did not change in that time. Only the record did. The confusion was not accidental. The vine almost never flowers in cultivation. Its reproductive identity, the structure that would have resolved the classification debate immediately, was simply unavailable to any botanist working from a houseplant. The plant that filled every greenhouse and office in the Western world was, taxonomically, an incomplete specimen. Science was classifying a shadow. By the mid-20th century it was already in offices, hospitals, shopping centers across Europe and North America. It required nothing. It asked for no particular soil, no consistent watering, no window. It was sold as decoration and treated as furniture. The Polynesian knowledge encoded in its old names, hunter's robe, salon creeper, did not travel with it. What crossed the ocean was the shape. The context stayed behind. The vine did not notice. It grew toward the darkest corner of every room it entered. It propagated from cuttings without permission. It naturalized in Australia, Sri Lanka, the Pacific Islands, and South Africa, overgrowing native forest floors with the same indifference it had always shown to conditions that were supposed to stop it. classified invasive, unmanageable, inconvenient. In 1989, NASA published its Clean Air Study. The list of plants most effective at filtering indoor air pollutants, benzene, formaldehyde, xylene, included a Pipermnum aureum. The vine that had been classified 4 times, stripped of its indigenous context, reduced to an office ornament, was confirmed as a functional biological filter. The hunters of Moorea had kept it near their living spaces. The confirmation arrived 109 years after the first European misidentification. What cannot be killed cannot be forgotten completely. The vine remains in every hospital corridor, every neglected corner, every room where nothing else was thought to survive. It is still growing toward the dark. It was always growing toward the dark. The name that followed it out of the Pacific was not wrong in the way that error is wrong. It was accurate in the way that old observation is accurate, unscientific, informal, arrived at through watching rather than measuring. Devil's ivy. A plant that stays green when kept from all light. The knowledge was never lost. It was simply stored in a name that no one thought to take seriously. The vine is not extraordinary because it survives. Many plants survive. It is extraordinary because of how it survives. By treating darkness not as an obstacle, but as information. By interpreting shadow not as danger, but as direction. Long before laboratories measured its chemistry, before botanists argued over its classification, before office workers placed it beside fluorescent lights and forgot it was alive, the plant had already solved a problem that most species never encounter. It learned how to navigate uncertainty. It learned how to find structure where others saw absence. It learned how to continue when conditions suggested it should stop. The knowledge was never lost. It was growing slowly in the corners of rooms. It was climbing quietly toward places no one else was looking. It exhaled its lessons without speaking. Every night, in homes across the world, a vine from a Pacific island continues the same ancient behavior. Reading darkness. Following it. Growing through it. Nature does not wait for permission. It simply persists. If this kind of knowledge matters to you, the buried, the overlooked, the ancient made suddenly urgent, subscribe to Ancient Food Files. Every story here is one that almost didn't survive.